Welcome to SorWil Solutions, where we talk about what's going on in our community. I'm Joe Wilson, the CEO of SorWil Technology Solutions. I'm with Kathryn Hancock, our marketing director, and today our special guest is Andy Burris with the Cruz4Life Foundation. Andy, thank you so much for being here today.
Joe, thank you for inviting me.
Super excited to get into this discussion. It is a very heavy discussion. I'm sure this is an issue that you talk about a lot, but this isn't a very comfortable issue to talk about, I'm sure, because of everything that you experienced and you went through. Can you kind of tell us how we got here? Kind of tell us your story, tell us about Cruz, and, let's kind of start there.
Absolutely. Again, my name is Andy Burris. I'm from the Leavenworth County in Lansing, Kansas. And 2.5 years ago, we unfortunately lost our 15-year-old son, Cruz, due to a poisoning of fentanyl. It was January 17th in the evening when the last time I saw Cruz alive. And it was a normal evening. He was playing his video games, chatting with friends. And I just said, "Hey, son, I'm going to hit the hay early. Mom's got a big day tomorrow." So at any rate, he goes, I said, "I love you, son." He said, "I love you too, Dad." And we went to bed thinking it was just a normal evening. But what behind the scenes had happened is Cruz reached out to a local drug dealer. I call them predators, all drug dealers and individuals like that are predators, and arranged a delivery of what my son thought was a Percocet pill. And just to rewind a little bit, my son Cruz, 15-year-old, he was beginning an experiment. He was experimenting with marijuana, alcohol and the like. And we always thought he'd grow out of this. But I made him a deal. It's like, Cruz, you need to stop that marijuana. I said, you're at the age that you could get your learner's permit. So he started cleaning up. So I thought, okay, it's a phase, and we all go through certain phases growing
Sure.
up. But we went to bed, and that Wednesday morning, the 18th of January, was normal for me. Woke up and piddled around the house, did some chores. It was a work morning for Cruz. It was a school morning. And we went through our routine. Rhonda, my wife, gets up and wakes up the kids promptly at 6:30 in the morning. And, when I was in another room, I heard the most horrific scream in my whole life. And it was like, "Andy," very loud, "get up here." I said, "Okay." And then she screamed, following me. She said, "Cruz is dead." And I just couldn't believe my ears. I said, "Certainly I misheard." But I ran up. And I took her message serious, and on the way up, I was dialing 911. And by the time I got to Cruz's room, he was laying there on this side. He was holding his cell phone in his hand. And I set my phone down so the operator could speak to Rhonda and my daughter, and I pulled him off the bed. And I immediately gave my son CPR. While the 911 dispatcher was speaking with my daughter and my wife. And I was praying the hardest I've ever prayed in my entire life. Like, "Son, Father in heaven, please don't take my son." The paramedics arrived very soon, shortly after, and excused Ron and I, and they did some work. And it wasn't, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, perhaps, that somebody came out and said, "We're sorry. Your son is gone." So that's why I'm here right now. Again, that was 2.5 years ago. I could tell you about our feelings and the emotional struggles that we've all had since that time. But it really wasn't too far out, because I do believe in God. I do believe there's a reason for everything. God talked to me, and he says, "Andy," he says, we need you to share your story. We need you to help other children." So that's what really shined the light on me. I'm like, there's a reason for this. There's a reason. And so, together with a couple of other friends, and mind you, this is several months down the
Sure.
road still, because we're still trying to get to the grieving part and try to figure out, is this reality or is this still a nightmare? And Joe and Kathryn, this has been a nightmare and it'll always be a nightmare, even 2.5 years later. But as media flooded my life, I was able to connect with the DEA and local government, because at that time, the fentanyl poisonings and death in our country was starting to really increase, and it peaked in that year of 2023 with almost 100. I know there was over 107,000 deaths in that year alone.
Let me have you pause there for a second. I want to get back into. I'm sure, and I appreciate you digging into
Oh
this,
no,
and I
you're
can hear
fine.
the emotion. Um, how did you? What did you first think had happened, and when did you realize that fentanyl was involved?
Well, we are avid news watchers, not only on our local news, but as far as our nation and on global. And Rhonda and I have seen the influx of fentanyl coming through our country. In fact, we would often bring our daughter JC and our son Cruz to sit down with us on the couch and watch, and we're explaining to them, it's like, kids, this stuff's for real and it's killing people. I said, we both say, do not take any pills that's not prescribed by your doctor or given to you by mom or dad. So we knew the fentanyl was in. During that time when my son was dead, I think it was Rhonda said, it's fentanyl. I mean, what else could it be? And we were proven correct after the autopsy. Several weeks later, came back that it was fentanyl that killed him. It was fentanyl that was laced in that Percocet pill. And then to continue, Joe, what helped our movement, is what I like to call it, with the Cruz4Life Foundation here in the Leavenworth County, is because I've been after the media, our story was starting to get out there, and I've been approached by several other parents in our community. Kelly, for example, just recently after Cruz had lost her daughter, um, Desiree, and then I got a call from somebody out in the Weston area, Vanessa and Joe. We know Vanessa from Genesis. She reached out, said that her beautiful boy had just passed too. So there was a pool of unfortunate parents in our situation. I wasn't alone. Rhonda and I were not alone. There was other parents, and we decided to combat this and do something about it. We started the Cruz4Life campaign and foundation, and together we've been trying to spread the word in our community, with the mission of saving one child's life.
What impact has your efforts made so far? I know you guys also give out free Narcan too, so I know
Yes,
it's a big
thank
thing.
you. I believe that it's been a very positive impact, and statistically on a nationwide level. Now, this is we have community, we have nationwide. The fentanyl deaths have decreased in this last year, 24%. That's from 23 to 24, and I feel that's even going to dive deeper than that. In regards to our Leavenworth County and local communities, I have not heard of any recent fentanyl deaths. As a matter of fact, I've been connected with people and parents and children I don't even know, and they say thank you for what you do. I've been approached by mothers and fathers and say your billboard sign and what you guys do have impacted our family immensely. Their children have taken a turn and just said no to drugs. So when I hear feedback, these positive feedbacks, I know that we're having a positive effect. Again, although I don't have the metrics to prove it on paper, it's helping.
How did you figure out the events of what actually had happened to him, that he had called somebody or reached out to somebody? How did that piece is that from the law enforcement? Was that from you and your wife just kind of digging into his personal life? How did that unfold?
We were very fortunate. I'm gonna first again, God was on our side. We were very fortunate as the next day, the the dealer, Torrin Ballman, as you well know, his younger brother was involved with in my children's friend circle. In fact, he's come over on several occasions and hung out with the kids. And he texted JC, my daughter, and with the information, said, I know who sold Cruz the pill last night, and he said it was my brother Torrin, who, by the way, just recently graduated from high school and shared a class with JC. And we did have the evidence on the information that Torrin's younger brother, which I cannot remember his name right now, but it did have an image from the social media platform Snapchat. It showed an image of Torrin. It showed his hands open with numerous drugs, with advertisement. I got weed. I got perk. I got fent. And he was displaying what he was able to sell. And as well as he did have evidence of the Life 360 app, and it showed the driving pattern and the time of Torrin driving to our house 11:30 at night and leaving back home. So we had those pieces of evidence. Now, that's what got us moving. Now, unfortunately, at that time, Cruz had changed his password. Please stop me if I'm moving too fast.
Oh no,
No,
no.
you're good.
Cruz had stopped, had changed his password on his iPhone, and I'm gonna pause here and recommend that any parent don't get an iPhone in the event their child changes the password, because Apple will not assist you, no matter under any circumstances. Even if your child was murdered, they will not provide the passcode to help the police with their investigation. So the Lansing Police Department did have this case. They were working on this case. They attempted, because before they could move forward with any type of prosecution or even question the alleged, at that time, drug dealer, Torrin Bauman, they needed further evidence. They needed to get inside Cruz's phone to see what the conversation was about.
So did you end up talking to Snapchat?
We did not, but I had another person who did.
Well,
Lansing Police Department failed to. They were they could not unlock his phone. I don't know if they did not have the technology or what have you, and we were getting nowhere with this. As I was communicating and rallying and working with Senator Roger Marshall at the time, I was at an event where I did ask. Mr. Chris Cobain was there speaking, the Elephants Club, and I went to. I needed, and I spoke up in front of everybody. I said, District Attorney or State Attorney, I said, I need some help. I said, my son died, and we cannot unlock his phone to get this gentleman prosecuted, the alleged drug dealer. Can you help us? So it wasn't a couple of days later, then he arranged for the Kansas Bureau of Investigations to come over. Sam Riffle, special agent, he was at our doorstep and took our testimony and stories, and he was very supportive. I am very. I give a huge kudos to the KBI, because without their help, we would have never got this moving. But at any rate, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation as well could not unlock his phone. They had to upgrade it to the Secret Service of Kansas. And Secret Service, and within days, had it unlocked. And then that was enough evidence that exploded on Snapchat that Special Agent Sam was able to get enough evidence to prosecute Mr. Torrin Bowman. I want to pivot a little bit and just say that although we have our small piece that the drug dealer is incarcerated and he cannot do any harm, I also want to add that I feel so bad for all the other parents who have no idea how or who have sold their child the drug, or how that child obtained that drug that killed them. So, do we have full closure? We'll never have full closure, but at least we know that that chapter is complete.
I know he was sentenced to 155 months in, believe, prison, jail. Um, do you feel like that was enough time? Do you feel like your justice was served for your son?
That's a great question. Mr. Bowman, with the case and with the evidence, he could have faced first degree murder, which would have charged him 25 to life, 25 years to life. Okay, we took many things in factor at this point. This was a very hard time for Rhonda and I, as well as JC. If JC had her way at that time, she would have snuffed him, because Tori took her best friend. They were twins. Again, I believe in God. We've God tells us to He forgives us, and we must forgive as well. That doesn't mean we'll ever forget. When we sit back and think about the circumstances that led to Cruz being gone and in heaven right now, we also have to look at the drug dealer, Mr. Bauman. He was young. He was 18 years old. Okay. We know that young men, they don't even fully develop mentally, physically until they're mid or late 20s. We think about, did he wake up this morning and said, you know what, I'm going to go kill somebody? No, that was not his intention. His intentions were make a few dollars, and that was the easiest way to do it. The sentence that we allowed, we had a plea deal. We didn't want to go to court. We didn't want to go to a trial and fight this and try to get everything. We didn't try to squeeze it, because that's not going to do us any good. It won't. And as well as, unfortunately, one of my fentanyl parents, Libby Davis out of Shawnee, right? They did go to full court, and one of the jurors didn't feel that drug dealer should have been sentenced, so the drug dealer walked. And so these are chances that you got to take. And again, rewinding it back, it wasn't to put this young man away for life, but just to have him incarcerated, to maybe clean himself up, maybe get a direction on life. He did not intentionally kill Cruz. He needs a little bit grown up, and I believe in the Kansas Department of Corrections, he may get that help. So I do believe that this justice, was served. 13 years is a very short time. The sentence that Mr. Bauman has received has nothing to do with the sentence that Cruz has ever.
I appreciate that. Once again, I know this is not the easiest, and I'm hoping that we're reaching out to somebody, in the podcast who is either experiencing this, or potentially their children are, maybe this prevents, that from happening. Mr. Bauman was young. Did you have contact with his parents? What was that like?
No, we haven't. I believe during the part prior to the decision of the trial or plea, they attempted to reach out to us through the county attorney, and we said that there's nothing for us to talk about. And I believe that Mr. Bauman's mother is in the education system in Lansing. We might have brushed shoulders at some point. It's a small town, small community, but there was really nothing. Maybe some time down the road, if we decide, Rhonda's kind of the spearheads the ideas and is okay things. They say that the wife is the boss in the house, and I don't want to say the boss, but if Rhonda is okay with things, I'm okay with it. We may reach out and say, hey, how are you? We don't. This is not your fault. This is something that is an unfortunate event. That God had that plan, and this is the cards He gave us. The game of life isn't to get the best hand, but to play the worst cards that you have well. And this is what we have to do. Um, so
What was it that, I'm sure that it was difficult throughout. What got you through the hardest days?
that's a really difficult question because
Sure.
just my faith and prayer, got me through the difficult days. Having a inner harmony with myself, having an inner harmony, knowing that Cruz lived a very fun and fulfilled life, even in his short 15 years. Networking and understanding there were other parents out there. Well, I wasn't alone, and that's what kind of really created a bond with me. And it took Rhonda a little bit longer to come out. But as well as I think I got most of my satisfaction and healing, and it still does, is when I advocate. When I advocate and teach children and parents, and especially parents, with that thought, like, yes, this can happen to you and your child. Because Rhonda and I, we live in a very moderate household, very moderate income. We have everything that we need. We're not deprived. We've been on vacations. We've have a nice home, clean. We attend church, and we thought we were a role model family. But I want to tell these parents that it can happen to you, and I would like to supply some of the tools and learnings that I have, and share that. But to answer your question, Joe, that's what gets me through. And it still does, even 2.5 years later. If I could help advocate just on a local level, or even a state or a national level, which Rhonda and I continue to do, to get invited to Washington, D.C. and New York. And, I could get into another topic of the social media platforms, because right now that is going crazy unless we really, get some restrictions on those companies.
For me, you and I met attending the gym, and then I had just happened during my campaign and my attempts to understand what was going on in the community, attended a rally at the community center where we once again met outside of that environment, and I began to learn about your world, and it was super impactful to me personally. We have Narcan in the house now. I had no idea how bad um, the fentanyl issue was, and so while my campaign didn't end the way I had wanted it, I learned so much about our community. But I listened to you speak at that event, and I listened to Representative Proctor speak on and talk about the work that you guys did together to make changes to some of the fentanyl laws. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. Ron and I are fortunate enough to provide our testimony and to speak on a couple of occasions. You mentioned the DARE program. When I was growing up, we had the DARE program in our school, and it was impactful. I learned a lot how bad drugs are for you. But when you're talking about the late 70s and 80s, this has nothing to do with what's going on now. Right now, they're manufacturing so many illicit drugs that would just kill you instantly, just inhaling it. You've seen videos on that. But my thought process, and as well as Rhonda's, is like, why do they not have a DARE program in our schools, especially in the state of Kansas? And the answers I'm receiving, either from the school board or Governor Kelly, is it costs too much money. We don't have the funding for it. My answer there is, first of all, you can't put a price on our children. If we do that, if we keep that mindset, we're not going to have any children left. And the other one is I do believe the last time I checked that school curriculums also included some kind of health, safety, or physical well-being and education. They can put some type of a few hours a week into these programs and just fit that into their agenda. It's not going to cost them any additional money. I'm not talking about a Monday through Friday, drug class, but these kids need to be aware, especially after they graduate from, or even pre middle school and into high school.
That shocks me because they had it when I was in Lansing.
Mm-hmm.
In 5th grade, we had to go through the DARE program.
Well, they still should.
Yeah.
And again, it's not happening. It's spontaneous throughout the state, but I think it needs to be covered 100% in the classes. These students, these children need to understand that it's not okay to vape. They're putting this fentanyl and other drugs in vapes. They're spraying marijuana with these things. They're lacing fentanyl pills. And that's just fentanyl. There's other drugs that these cartels and dealers are putting to, and these cartels and drug dealers, their intentions are not to kill their clients, because that's a steady customer. Their intentions are to get people addicted so they could, become return customers. So, but if children do not know this, and you probably know as well as I was brought up in an era where we weren't too afraid of anything, and I thought I was invincible being 15 years old, 15 through 17, and I've done stuff that probably would have killed me now. And I didn't know better. I didn't think it was going to cause any harm to me, and it didn't. But today, there is no chance for experimenting like Cruz was doing. Cruz was experimenting. Cruz wanted to find out what a high was from a Percocet pill because he's heard stories. I guess one of the biggest impact that Cruz had for his friends is because of that night, January 17th, 2023, Cruz connected via FaceTime with two of his closest friends. They're not 18 years old yet, so I won't tell them names, but as Cruz was showing them how cool he was, he wanted to show his two closest friends, the experience of getting high. So via FaceTime, Cruz ingested this pill so he could show them how cool he was. And his friends watched him. He chopped it up per Torrance instructions and he snorted it. And he sat on his bed with his phone. I mentioned that Wednesday morning, he still had the phone in his hand. They watched him. They watched him immediately stop breathing and collapse to the side. They didn't do anything for two reasons. One, they were afraid to call Rhonda and I that Cruz would get in trouble. And the second one is they weren't educated to understand that it could have been a deadly drug that just immediately killed him, like fentanyl. Now, had the DARE program been in their schools at that time, perhaps it would have been on the horn immediately. Perhaps Rhonda and I would have had Narcan in our house administered and saved Cruz's life. But none of that happened because of the lack of education. And I was telling you, those kids, yeah, they were traumatized. Will they be traumatized forever? I don't think so. But they will take that memory and they'll know right from wrong. And they will share their experience as they have on multiple occasions with our media and our community, saying, we lost our best friend. Don't do it.
Was your initial reaction to them? Were you angry with them for not calling?
Initially, yeah, because we call them the pack. There was a group 5 to 7, the pack. They'd come over all the time with Cruz. They would hang out. Yeah, I was disappointed that they didn't call Rhonda and I. But then I kind of whipped myself back at 15 years old. What I called somebody, my best friend's mom and dad, because they were afraid to get into trouble. I would have if I knew that my friend was dying, but they didn't know he was dying. But yeah, it was really hard. But no, it was shortly after. In fact, the parent of one of the kids, she was the one who helped us, establish the Cruz4Life Foundation and becoming an entity, as far as a corporation and so forth with our 501(c), whatever the nonprofit's called. But no. And it's been a little bit, but the pack used to come over every other weekend or so and still hang out. They'd still see Cruz's room. They want to be hanging out in the basement, play pool, just like Cruz was here. They go in his room. We still haven't changed it. It's still the same. It's still the same as when he died.
This is, I can't imagine what you went through. And yet you found a way to turn this into something that can benefit the community. And I find that so admirable of you. And I can't imagine how that has, that route you had to take to get there. But I know that this is making a difference. I know that you're making a difference, and I know that our community is better now than it was. I'm just very sorry that you had to go through that.
No, I appreciate it. And, nobody really ever understands, I guess, until you're put in that same position, right? You asked a question earlier, how did I get through the tough times? And, there's a saying, a quote, and I say this often during my rally speeches, but a song by the Beatles, Paul McCartney wrote the line, "Take a sad song and make it better." So that's kind of my living philosophy when it comes to us losing our son. Is we can't. It's not going to do us any good to grieve, dwell, mope, drink ourselves to death, and do nothing. We need to stand up, brush ourselves off, put our head back high, and make a powerful impact. Like I said, there's a reason for everything, and I think God had the plan that that if we could save at least one child's life, we're doing okay.
How can people get involved? How can people reach out and donate to the cause? Can you just kind of look at the camera
Yeah.
and just let people know what they can do to get involved and any events you have coming up?
Sure. Absolutely. Just please reach out to www.cruz4life.com. That's our website. It has educational information, a couple of videos. Has my contact number, which is actually 913-744-7438. I will answer 24/7 if you want to talk, or if you want to join our Cruz4Life Foundation. This September 20th, we, our group, our Cruz4Life Foundation, we are going to be sponsoring the 3rd annual Fentanyl Awareness Rally next to the community center in Leavenworth by the Riverfront Park, also called the Landing, I believe. And more information and details will be published and put out there. But please come out, offer your support. With our mission is to educate parents, children, and everyone about the deadly effects of fentanyl and social media.
Thank you so much for that. Please know that whatever we can do to help support you in any way, we want to be as involved in helping to raise awareness as we can, as both as a company and as individuals.
Well, you've been a very good support just recently since I met you, Joe, and I will call upon you actually.
So now we're going to try to switch gears and go to a little lighter topic. I will tell you, this is the heaviest interview we've ever done. I think the only time that I got my voice got a little bit shaky there myself. So once again, thank you so much for coming and sharing. I know it's not easy, but we're going to try to go to a lighter topic. And we have 10 rapid fire questions so we can learn a little bit more about Andy Burris. We're going to answer 5 of them.
Okay.
You get to choose the first 4 by picking a number, and then we'll choose the 5th one. So, what is your first number?
Number 3.
Number 3.
Morning person or night owl?
Absolutely morning, even on weekends. No
too.
problem with that. I think better, and the family's asleep, and I get to do all those dad things around the house. So I'm a morning guy.
He also plays pickleball very early on Thursdays at Genesis Gym if you're looking to play pickleball.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Next number.
6.
6. Who makes you laugh the most?
Oh my gosh. That's kind of that has several answers. When I'm looking at comedians, I love the old time Rodney Dangerfield.
Okay.
Okay, because I can relate. You relate. You know, my mother-in-law. I told her, my home's your home, so she sold it. You know. Yeah. No, Rodney Dangerfield's pretty good, and recently, I'm an avid Fox News watcher, so Greg Gutfeld is pretty funny, lightens up things. So,
Okay. Next number.
how about number 2?
Okay. What song do you always turn up in the car when you're driving?
That's very easy. First of all, I want to tell you I'm a huge Beatles fan. So any Beatles fans, I'd crank up. But there's one song that's not with the Beatles, but it was Cruz and I's one of our favorite songs, and it's "Bye Bye Miss American Pie" by Don McLean, and that has hidden meaning because Cruz was quite rapidly developing into an excellent guitar player. He was starting to rip it, and he was just a natural. I have a minimal talent, but I taught him what I knew, and he just took off with it. And in that song, Miss American Pie, it describes several of the legendary musicians like the Beatles, like the Rolling Stones, like Bob Dylan, like the Byrds. And then so we would just crank that up, and it's a pretty, several minute song. So we would have a good time. And that last part is "Bye, bye, Miss American Pie." And he and I would just crank that up, and good memories.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. One more.
How about number 8, Joe?
Number 8. If you could travel anywhere tomorrow, where would you go?
That's easy. Being a avid Beatles fan, I would go to Liverpool, England.
Okay.
Yes, I would love to stomp the same roads and paths that the music gods had paved.
All right. Number 5, we will pick, and Kathryn, I'll let you pick this one.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Follow your gut. Follow your gut instincts, because those usually are the most accurate. Because you could ponder, the pros, the cons, and everything. But if your gut's saying, "Hey, don't do that," you shouldn't do it.
Andy, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. I know it wasn't easy. We are so honored to have you here. I know I've been talking to you for weeks about this, and I just really, truly am grateful you made the time to come out here, and hopefully we made the impact on somebody out there. Hopefully somebody is calling to get involved, and maybe we can help save a life. Thank you very much.
I'm honored to be here, and I really appreciate you both for the invitation.
That's our episode of SorWil Solutions this week. Please join us next week as we start to talk with some of our educators in the schools.